think it might be safe to get started. What do you think, Danielle? I wanna check in with Danielle just to see what she thinks. Yes. All right, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are joining us from. But we're just so happy that you're here and we're happy to have you. And welcome to today's session, Making Breastfeeding Work for You. So we're going to be talking all things lactation for this session. And this is actually a part of our new series, Parenting with Confidence, where we discuss maternal health, child health, and so much more. So if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you before this very moment, my name is Michaela Guerrier, and I'm going to be your moderator for this session. Briefly, just a little bit about me. I am from Palm Beach County, Florida. That's actually where I am currently based right now. I am a proud Haitian woman. I am the product of two Haitian immigrants. And I've actually been in the public health space for about 8 years now. I graduated with my bachelor's of science in public health from the University of South Florida. I moved back home because we needed to save some coins after that. And then I went back to school and I received my MPH, Master's in Public Health from Florida International University. During that time, I worked at a nonprofit agency called Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, spent 5 years there. I did a couple different roles. My favorite one was a centering pregnancy facilitator. So I would just provide education to women, all of whom were pregnant, and we would discuss navigating pregnancy, maternal health, and the postpartum period, especially breastfeeding. I also became a breastfeeding counselor during this time. I absolutely love everything about it. I've been doing it for 6 years, about 6 years now, and I'm currently studying to become an IBCLC. So the International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. So wish me luck, everybody. And speaking of IBCLC, I am here with Miss Marette Wachira. She is also an IBCLC. I'm so happy that she is here. She's going to be providing great information about breastfeeding and honestly making it work for you. I'm going to just do a quick little introduction of her, but before I do, we just want to thank the incredible organizations that we are partnering with for this series, the Hive Impact Fund and also DC WIC Department. Thank you for the incredible work that you all are doing for maternal health. And we also want to give a shout out to Help Me Grow DC. They're also a great partner for this event. They are an information and referral helpline for pregnant people, dads, and caregivers of children ages 0 through 5, and they are based also in DC. So if you are in the DC area, please check them out. They provide a lot of different resources from bilingual care coordination services. They do infant safe sleep training for families. They also do home visitation programs or home visiting parent support programs as well. So you're more than welcome to check them out. You can go on Google and type in Help Me Grow DC, and you can learn so much more about them. All right. So without further ado, let me read the intro. Fueled by a passion to problem solve and more than 10 years of public health experience, Marette is a strong advocate for providing compassionate, equitable maternal health care with a focus on lactation, substance use, and emergency preparedness in the prenatal period. So when she's not in the community volunteering, supporting, or learning, she is online bringing awareness to the importance of lactation and creating resources for the organizations she lives, breathes, and serves, including La Leche League, we love them, and the Tampa Bay Breastfeeding Task Force. While many would describe her as a night owl, me too, and a workaholic, Marette enjoys nerding out on all things science, Star Trek, reading, and social justice alongside her spouse and two sons in Washington, D.C., where she works as a supervisory public health analysis. Ladies, she is well-rounded. She is so sweet. So without further ado, Marette, please go ahead and take it away.
Hi, thank you for that great introduction. I appreciate it. I also went to University of South Florida, so it's very exciting to see. Um,
Go
Go
Bulls!
Bulls.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so it's very exciting to see how we are separated and yet connected. Um,
Absolutely.
and I know that this is like a broad uh, experience. There are lots of parts of breastfeeding that we can take from. So if you have questions, I definitely encourage people to ask away. I will don't do not mind being interrupted. I know it'll be through questions, so I'm fine with that as well with typing. But I am going to be talking about breastfeeding and making it work for you. Let's see if I can get this. Okay. So we'll be talking just a little bit about positioning and latch and some realistic expectations, navigating supply challenges and pumping, and some mind-body techniques for stress and milk flow. Again, just a little bit about me. They're my two boys. They are 18 and 11. My eldest was formula fed and breastfed, so I definitely had some challenges with that. But while I was learning how to breastfeed and do all that, I really realized I loved it. So the opposite from Michaela, I learned I really loved breastfeeding and wanting to help my community. And then I got all that education that went across with it through like La Leche League, peer counseling, working for the Florida Department of Health, and getting my bachelor's and master's to really round out that education, as well as becoming an IBCLC. So, I have a lot of personal experience and also community experience. And I'm always looking to be challenged and be surprised too. I mean, there will always, you're not learning if you're not surprised sometimes. Um, so we'll just talk a little bit about before baby arrives. It's really very shocking for people to realize how small the baby's tummy is. It's very small, size of a marble. And when they first get fed, they get these really small amounts of milk uh, oh, I'm sorry. Also, if I use breastfeeding or lactation, I'm going to try and use gender neutral terms, but if I don't, I am sorry. Sometimes it just slips. But if any way you want to feed your baby through pumping, lactation, human milk, that is what I'm here to support you with. But with human milk, they get very small amounts, and that's not often taught until after, and you're like realizing you like, oh, I'm not making enough, or I'm trying to give my baby this big bottle, and then they're always upset. So I always want to make sure people see how small and how little amount of feeding they get in that first 24 hours, which is anywhere between 4 to 8 times, usually around 6 times in 24 hours. They're getting really small amounts. But if you are having problems at the hospital, they tend to give you really big bottles full of formula, or don't really tell you that don't have to fill up the big bottles. You're just going to fill up the little, give them a little bit in the small bottles if you're expressing your own milk. Um, but we want to make sure that you're talking to your provider before you have the baby so that they know what your goals are and how they can support you, and they can tell you what they do at the hospital or at your birthing center that would help support you. I definitely encourage joining some support groups and events like these before you have the baby, and making sure that you're talking to your family and friends and letting them know, because um, those of you that may already have children will often have a lot of grandparent suggestions or aunts and uncles. And even me, I'm the eldest in my family, so all my cousins had to like follow what I was doing because I was the eldest. And so like my sister and I would always like kind of have discussions prior to having children or before she has children. And then she had her children. She's like, I'm so sorry. So there's a lot of feedback that you get from the community that may not be helpful, and not knowing who you can trust before or knowing who you can trust before baby arrives is super important. So having little discussions here and there, dropping hints and see what feedback you get and who's going to be supporting you is going to be super important. Well, Um, so like I said, family support is super important. Be when you're getting ready for baby, making sure that your family knows how they can help, talking to them about skin to skin, bringing the food to mom, that their job isn't necessarily to take care of baby, but to take care of the birthing parent or the lactating parent and to help you recover from birth and you take care of baby. And there will be times that you need them to like maybe you want to take a shower and do all those things, but really their goal should be to go to your house to help. I always remember one of my friends, I went to go help her after her baby was born, and she had been, it was kind of like 3 or 4 days after the baby was born, and she needed some help. And I brought her food, I brought her some extra onesies, and she's like, "You're not taking my baby from me?" I'm like, "No, I'm here to help you. What do you need me to do? Can I pick up your trash? Can I put away your laundry?" Because it wasn't, she wanted her baby, but everybody else who had come to her house before me had set up the expectation to take the baby from her. And that was how they were going to help, but that wasn't what she wanted. So making sure that you're setting those expectations with your family support and having them understand what you would need. Even making a list ahead of time. Meal trains are really great. Knowing what kinds of snacks or food. The other thing I like to do is I'll go and prep food for them so that when I'm gone, they have food afterwards. So see who's going to be those people that are going to be that kind of help for you before you would invite them over or encourage them to come over. Um, so again, joining support groups and meetups is another way to kind of give you, when you join a mom group during your pregnancy, a lot of times they will help you once baby is born. And then they will also give you lessons learned because everybody has a little bit of lessons, and there are cultural things that maybe we don't understand different in different cultures. Like my husband's Kenyan, and when I go to his family's house, there are definitely some cultural things I have to adapt to where I necessarily wouldn't do. Like they are their house is always so hot after they have the baby. So I know I have to go and I dress like very minimal so that I'm not sweating when I walk in the house, and they're doing it to keep the baby warm. And I have to like gently encourage them to like let the baby breathe so that they don't get overheated and educate them at the same time. Um, but so you have to kind of navigate the different experiences that you may have and that your family may have, right? Like again, we have from two different families coming in and giving experiences. Um, I cannot say enough about skin to skin contact with families. My mom loved doing this with my son, especially it was very helpful when I went back to work, and that she got to do this for bonding and attachment. This is also a really great way in the first couple days to weeks for helping baby wake up if they're really sleepy, to help them calm down if they're very fussy, like maybe everybody took a really long nap and then baby woke up and was like, "I am starving and I cannot calm down." You put that baby skin to skin, let them calm down, and slowly get them to the breast so that they understand that they're being taken care of, but they may just not be getting fed yet. So skin to skin, super important for that. Um, so that they know that they're being taken care of, but also can help with some breastfeeding. Also with if you're expressing your milk with pumping or hand expression, you can put baby skin to skin to kind of help with that oxytocin. And then my favorite thing to do, especially for dads, is to encourage them to go skin to skin. Have the lactating parent or the breastfeeding parent feed the baby really, really well and let partner or dad play video games, watch a football game, whatever the case may be that will kind of keep them engaged and awake and do skin to skin. They put a blanket over both of them. They get to have the best bonding time because baby hears the partner's heartbeat. They get to smell them. They get to feel like um, how they interact with each other. So that's a really important way for people to help take care of your baby in those first few weeks and months. And then skin to skin is really important for bonding and brain development for 3 years. So there's really no limit on when you have to stop or don't need to do it. Um, but you want to make sure that you still kind of get that every once in a while. It's also really good for older siblings. My kids are 7 years apart. So if I needed to go cook or put something in the kitchen real quick, or my son wanted to be fed, I was like, here, sit with your brother, watch a cartoon, put a blanket over both of them. And they had that bonding time as well. And then it's also, say you have a 4 or 5 year old, they can do skin to skin with you, and you can kind of just put that baby there after they fed for a little bit. You guys can watch cartoons for 10 or 15 minutes, and everybody kind of gets that nice, cuddly, oxytocin bonding period. Questions on that? Okay. I didn't, not doing a big video on uh, positioning right now because an attachment, but I did want to kind of go over some of the common positions that you may see if you have your baby postpartum, and maybe someone's asking you, how are you holding your baby or what position you're doing. These are some of the common terms you may hear. So laid back nursing position is a really great position for the first couple days, weeks, and months of breastfeeding. You just really you lay your whole body down back, and you let gravity do a lot of the work of holding that baby close to you. You'll notice, except for the twin mom, nobody's really holding the back of the baby's head. Everybody's holding the body and the shoulders, and we really want to encourage the body and the shoulders being brought to the breast and to the mom's body or the lactating parent's body, but you don't want to hold the head. Um, I like to explain when you are at a restaurant and your friend comes over to you, you didn't know they were coming, but they push your head in, they're going to fight you and be like all upset. But if they touch your shoulder and they say, "Hey, how are you?" You're going to be like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Like this is more comfortable than having your head pushed in. And the other thing that happens when you hold the baby's head, you push this chin into the chest, and it makes it really hard for them to suck and swallow because, like, I have my water here, but I'm going to try and suck like this. I'm barely getting any and I'm dribbling my milk out. But if I tip my head back, I got a lot more water and I was able to take deeper suctions, and I could have kept going, but we got training to do. So that's something that is often one of the first things I have with a new baby. That's the first question or concern I ask about is how they're holding the baby's body or head. And if I can get them to change that, that is the biggest success rate. That's like what will make things better for baby and mom or lactating parent. So, um, so again, we're supporting the baby's shoulder and neck. If you do have a phone that you're not like watching, you can take this QR code and it will take you to a really good video on latching and attachment just to kind of keep in the back of your mind for use. But you're going to be bringing baby to you. You don't bring your body to baby. So again, that's why that laid back position helps. I love recliners for this, and also putting pillows behind your back and letting your bottom scoot forward on couches and bringing baby in. Um, the baby's mouth is going to cover the majority of the nipple and the areola. And let me make sure. Um, so with the nipple is here, and then this is the areola. Baby's going to cover most of that. Maybe you'll see some at the top here. This is the baby's top lip, but most of that at the bottom is going to be gone. You will not, the baby is going to take more of the breast at the bottom and be swallowing and sucking here. And if you're seeing a lot of the nipple moving in and out kind of like this, that means that you're not get they're taking too much of the nipple and not as much of the breast. You'll see if you're doing kind of like this, you don't see it going back and forth like you do if you're just taking the nipple. Um, so yeah, baby's lips are turned outward, chin is tucked into that breast. Again, we're having that in out rather than in. And you don't have pain. That is a big misunderstanding that breastfeeding should be painful. It may not be rainbows and sunshine right away, but it shouldn't be so painful that you want your baby off of you or you want to stop. And there may be something that we can kind of, even if it's not rainbows and sunshine yet, you still maybe want someone to look at it just to kind of see if there's something that they could fix. And it should not last for long periods. Or I had someone the other day that said that breastfeeding wasn't painful until the baby came off. And again, that's a sign that there's pain. So even if they come off and there's pain, then that's something we want to look at. You will hear babies start to suck and swallow. You'll hear gulps, and you want to kind of hear that consistently through their feeding. They also want feedings to last anywhere between 15 to 35 minutes, depending on the age and the time of day of the baby. They all change. There will be times that they have a really short feeding, and then there'll be times that they have a really long feeding. But if it's always only 5 minutes or always 45 minutes, then that's something that we want to look at as well. Um, and then there's lots of, this is going to be a video on, I'm showing are from the Global Health Media Project. They are free access. You can get them through YouTube. There are tons of them available and they are in different languages, but the one that for latching and attachment that was the QR code earlier, and then this one I think are very helpful in the first few days, weeks, and even before you have baby, just to kind of understand what you may need to do. There are lots of reasons for pumping or expressing your milk. Like they said, for that one mom with dealing with engorgement, it is very common to have, especially around day 3 to 5, some extra milk and expressing a little bit just to kind of feel more comfortable is hand expression is a really good way to do that. This is my youngest here. I wanted to use this picture because you can kind of see in the background there's milk there. And that is extra milk that I was donating, but I want people to understand that you don't always have to have that extra milk. And even if you just have 1 or 2 bags, that's considered normal. I knew what I was doing ahead of time and was working up to donate extra milk for babies in the NICU because I did have NICU babies. So I purposely made extra milk it's not normal for everybody and it doesn't have to be everybody's goal. So I always want to make sure people see that yes, it is possible to get extra milk, but it is not necessarily the best for everybody's breastfeeding goals or expectations. I would never have had this with my first. I just would never have had this because I really didn't have a good understanding prior to having my first one. And like I said, he was formula feeding. I went back to work at 5 weeks postpartum, and I just really didn't set myself up early on to have a good breastfeeding pumping session. He was in the NICU for a week and I was afraid to pump, even though they told me to, because I was afraid I was going to spoil my milk or not have enough milk for my baby if he needed it. That is not the case. You can pump for your baby in the NICU and still be able to breastfeed them after if need be. Um, and you want to know why you are pumping. Maybe you are going back to work at 6, 12 weeks postpartum and you want to have a little bit of milk. Um, so if you're trying to just store up a little bit of milk, I would encourage you to, if breastfeeding is going well, wait until at least 2 weeks. Just let yourself rest postpartum and then 2 to 4 weeks, maybe pump once a day. It does not need to be often and a lot. Maybe you're worried about your baby's, or the doctor has told you that you need to pump, or you need extra milk, or you need to supplement, and you need to do a little bit more. That is okay too for pump. That is another good reason for pumping, but you really want to make sure you know why you're pumping, what are your goals with pumping, maybe a little bit of extra milk, maybe you want to donate like I did, maybe you're getting ready to go back to work, or maybe you're pumping because there's issues with your baby and maybe in the NICU or not eating well. And you want to know how long you should be pumping and know your goals with expressing your milk. So I think this was our last donation. And I wanted to take a picture of like how much I was sending off to the milk bank. So like I said, with if you're returning to work or school, you want to make sure that you kind of have a plan. This QR code here in the bottom will go to the DC work plan for returning to work and pumping. But if you say you know you're going back to work at 12 weeks postpartum, um, which a lot of people in the DC area do get to have that kind of break. Like I said, I did not have that with my children. I would encourage you to maybe start around 2 to 4 weeks. Give yourself chances to recover. Make sure breastfeeding's going well, and then you can pump maybe just once a day to build up your milk supply. You don't have to do a lot. You just need to make sure that you have enough for your baby for the next day. With the Break Time for Nursing Mothers Act, which happened in 2010, so my first baby was not old enough for that to protect me. You are allowed to pump. This is the very simple parts of it. That in a private place that is not a bathroom, as long as you have, and because people are from all over, every state has a little bit of different rules. We have a federal guideline. So if there are 50 employees um, in the employee, so maybe you work in a mom and pop store, but they have 8 mom and pop stores in your state. And they only have 5 or 8 people at a time, but every one of those places has that. You're looking at the full gambit of their employees. So as long as they have 50 employees or more, they are required to follow these guidelines. And if they consider it to be a hardship, it's on the employer to say why they cannot do that. So, we want to make sure that you know your rights and you reach out to people that you can trust, like people here attending these conferences or these meetings, IBCLCs, La Leche League leaders will sometimes have it. There is some really good online resources through um, Pregnant Scholar and also the National Law for Working Parents. They have some really good information for you, so you can look at each state. Um, but within DC, we do have the QR code here, and we also will send out the link with it as well. But on average, depending on how old your baby is, say you're going back right at 6 weeks as soon as you're cleared to go back from your work, or 25% of parents are going back to work 2 weeks postpartum. So 25% of our birthing parents are going back to 2 weeks postpartum. You want to make sure you're pumping at least every 3 hours for those going back early and often. But it may be a little bit different depending on your situation or your timing. Maybe you're in a really big meeting or a big training for like 3 or 4 hours and you really don't feel like you can leave, then make sure you're kind of pumping every 2 hours after that. Hopefully your bosses are giving you those types of breaks, but I know it can be really hard when you're asking for those and you're concerned about your employment. So if you're having issues like that, then again, speak up. It is through the Department of Wage and Hour that it is regulated. You do have protections. I have walked people through it, and Wage and Hour has taken up the issues and sued these employers for people that I've helped with. So there is protections for you, but we want to make sure that you have the right information before you go in. Um, just as a little reminder, you can keep your breast milk in the fridge for up to 4 days frozen, 4 months or longer, depending on the type of freezer you have. If you have a deep freezer, it's good for a year. So, sometimes people do have that, especially if you were in the NIC, if your baby was in the NICU and you're pumping a lot, sometimes you do have enough milk in that freezer. And again, this is talking about the DC laws. Um, employer shall provide reasonable daily unpaid break time. So that's another thing. Sometimes people don't realize that it is unpaid. If you are normally paid for a break for 15 minutes and your pumping time is only 15 minutes, you may get that time paid. But oftentimes when you're pumping, it's 20 to 25 minutes. So you may have to take unpaid time during that time. Um, they shall make sure that the efforts for sanitary rooms and other locations to close and that it's a close proximity to your work area. So hopefully nobody's like running across campus. I used to see that often in the universities that the pumping or express area is across it. It shouldn't be a bathroom or toilet stall. And they do have privacy and security, so it should be locked, or even sometimes if it's a curtain area, that it's well documented that it's private and that nobody should be going in there. And everybody has their own um, comfort levels with that. So I've had some people that chose to go to their car anyways because they were not comfortable enough with the curtain and it being well behind the building or in the back of the area with a curtain. And again, everybody has their own personal comfort levels, and that's fine. But there's ways that we can help if you need that. And the employer must create a policy for breastfeeding mothers, parents, and they must post and maintain a poster in a conspicuous place that sets forth these requirements. So if you don't see that, then and you're in DC, that may be something that you can bring up to our Department of Human Resources in DC government so that they can make sure that that is something that they are doing. Um, and like I said, there's many reasons that you may want to pump or need to pump. So when you are pumping, things that you can do to make life easier. I've been a breastfeeding, pumping, and a formula feeding mom. Breastfeeding, by far, in my opinion, and it's going to be different for everybody, is the easiest part of being a parent. Um, and trying to express and feed your baby. But you can, if you are away from your baby, having videos and pictures of your baby. I, oh, my spouse was not the most patient when they were little. So he would call me and have the baby cry on the phone. So I would keep the video, the sound, the voicemails of the baby crying, and I would listen to those sometimes if I was pumping. I would have videos of my baby breastfeeding, and I would put the pump on, and I would watch my videos of baby pumping or breastfeeding while I was pumping. Clothes and blankets, especially if your baby's in the NICU, those are really important things to smell because It's like so calming for both mom and baby. So the other thing to do in reverse, if your baby is in the NICU, and you have like breast pads, taking your breast pads and keeping them by the baby's bedside. Also, that was always a kind of a trick when babies were really, this kind of goes into the safe sleep and you want them to be in a safe sleeping space. You put like kind of a dirty breast pad underneath the cloth of the bed so that they can still smell you. Besides also trying to warm the bed before you put them on. That's another good trick. Music, I love Pink and Shakira. Shakira, I would listen to that all the time with my first ones. Some people maybe classical music is more their style when they're pumping. I would also, you can also take like an older sports bra, cut little holes, and put the pieces of the bra in through the holes of the bra so they can hold it in. There are pumping bras. Now, the one thing I will say is now we do have a lot of wearable pumps. They are okay for the occasional use, but if you are pumping for like an extended or consistent time period, you really still want to kind of stick to the more old school pumps, unfortunately. The wearable ones, especially depending on your size, do not always fit the flanges, so your nipple doesn't always fit properly. It can be very compressing onto your breast, so it doesn't really get all the milk out that you need. Um, so, not that they're bad, but we just want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to protect your milk supply because, like I said, my first one, I really didn't have a good setup. But with my second, I knew more what I was doing and I had everything set up that I needed. So, there's a lot to kind of keep in mind when you're trying to set up. And you should talk to a lactation consultant or a CLC or a La Leche League leader that's knowledgeable or a peer support person that's knowledgeable about returning to work and pumping or NICU and pumping. Um, I always recommend getting multiple pumping kits for the same type of pump so that you can change it out and clean it at home instead of during work time. So if you are pumping and trying to keep to that 15-minute break during your day, you're changing out the parts and then you're washing it at home when you get it home so you don't have to worry about cleaning it up. Um, and then have baby nurse on one side while pumping on the other. You can play with your pumping settings. You really want to know what works for you, and sometimes you'll have a really good letdown and have a lot of milk flowing early on, and then it will slow down. The breast shields and flanges of your pump pieces, sometimes one breast is one size and the other breast is a different size, and that's okay too. Again, you saw in the video they were talking about massage and making sure you're moving that milk out. And then using some warm compresses before. If you are home with your baby and you are breastfeeding baby perfectly, but you're feeling like engorged and you're dealing with a lot, do not use heat. Heat doesn't help if you're not trying to remove the milk. The heat is only for if you're trying to get milk out. Use cold compresses or cool compresses. One of the things I'll tell people is take like a burp cloth, get it wet, put it in the refrigerator for a few minutes, and then put it on your breast to kind of reduce some of that swelling. That's very common, usually in the first couple of weeks that you may need to do something like that. And I think we're getting kind of close to the time of so we have time for questions. There's also power pumping. If you do have issues with your milk supply and you're trying to build your milk supply up, you may do power pumping, and it can be done once every 24 hours. It may be done a couple times in 24 hours, but you pump for 20 minutes, you take a 10-minute break, you pump for 10 minutes, you take a 10-minute break, and you pump for 10 minutes. And so that's one pumping session. Um, the other thing that with pumping is you want to make sure you're not pumping for more than 30 minutes. Very, 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 very rarely do you need to pump for more than 30 minutes. Um, you should really stick to that 15 to 20-minute time period for the majority of your pumping sessions, and it's better to pump more often for shorter periods of time than to go longer and pump longer periods of time. Um, and then you want to drink to comfort. I have a lot of people that tell me they're drinking Powerade and Gatorade and all this other stuff. It's It may, some Gatorade once in a while may help you if you're like really thirsty, but it shouldn't be the norm of what you're drinking. You really just need to be drinking water, or maybe like tea. Usually in the first few weeks, we recommend not having too much caffeine, but it's really what you're comfortable with. You want to make sure that you're going to the bathroom regularly and you're staying hydrated, but you do not have to sit there and drink like a gallon of water every 6 hours or 12 hours, which sometimes people think. You don't want to overhydrate yourself, but you don't want to underhydrate yourself. So breastfeeding in public, it is legal and different levels in all 50 states. So know your area. In Florida, you're allowed to breastfeed covered or uncovered. In DC as well. Some places say only in public areas. Some people say wherever you're legally allowed to be. But you do have the right to breastfeed, covered or uncovered, and it's really going to be up to your comfort. I never had a problem being covered or uncovered breastfeeding, but some people do. My husband, who would have no problem me breastfeeding in Kenya, had more problems because he thought I would get in trouble in the United States than I did in America. So it was kind of like do what you're comfortable with. Sometimes people don't want to bring attention to themselves. Sometimes it doesn't bring attention to yourself. And if you try and cover up too, that might even make people look at you more. But do what's most comfortable. My sister was very modest, and she someone caught her breastfeeding once, and she got a letter. The lady like left her a letter saying how great it was that she was breastfeeding. She thought she was going to get yelled at. So most people are very supportive of it. But if you are nervous, make sure you go out with friends and family that are going to support you and advocate for your rights. Touched out. So we did talk about being mindful. You can see this is my youngest. I do not look pleased. I was touched out. I was tired. I believe this was a breastfeeding big latch on day. It was a lot of work. I was exhausted. It is okay. I love breastfeeding, but there are some days that sometimes you just have to say, I'm done. Somebody else needs to come in and help, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad mom. It doesn't mean that you're ready to give up. You just need to tell other people, again, like I said earlier, they need to be the ones that are going to help. Know who your helpers are, that are going to take the baby for a little bit, that are going to let you go and get your nails done, or that are going to let you sleep by yourself so the baby doesn't like crawl up to you and go, Mom. It's okay to have those times. Take a shower or a bath by yourself. Um, Write down if you're like home by yourself and nobody's around when you're having these feelings and you're like, I'm so tired, and nobody's there, write it down so when somebody else comes home, you can speak those words and have that time to uh, express what's going on, even if it's not happening at that time, so that you're not feeling like that all the time or every time you're home alone. Um, So being touched out is just a general term, and it's used very often in the lactation community. But we want to make sure that if that is happening, that you're speaking up and not like kind of sitting and suffering in silence. Okay. Okay. We have some time, so and I can answer as many questions as you guys would like. Um,
Here we go. All right, I'm officially off of mute. Thank you so much, Marette. This was, even for me being a breastfeeding counselor, it kind of just reminds me of some things. And I was over here, you couldn't hear me, but I was your amen corner, I promise. Oh gosh, well, we'd love to take some questions from anybody if there are any questions. I know that there are a couple that we have been receiving. Um, Let me just look through here. Okay. All right, so we did get a message to clarify if a mom is having issues with an employer, they should reach out to their local WIC office to help. This is very, very important. I will share a little bit as well. When I was working with my moms in group sessions, I would tell them, they are banking on you not knowing your rights. And there are some employers that will absolutely take advantage of you not knowing. I worked predominantly with the Haitian population, so many of my moms, their second language is English. Their first language was Creole. So they would have some employers who thought, well, they don't speak the language, they won't know. So whenever they told me, my boss won't let me breastfeed, and then we would go over or pump. And we would go over like, all right, how many people are working in your organization? And we would troubleshoot that. And I would tell them, here's the email you need to send to them, letting them know that you know your rights. And then I would have some moms come back to me and they're like, look, they sent me an email back. They're letting me pump now. Absolutely. So, because they know that you are aware of what's allowed and what's not allowed. So I 100% agree with troubleshooting. The WIC office is great for that. And being an advocate for one another. We have another question. Has there been any research that supports less cleaning of pump parts or such as the wearable ones? For instance, can we keep it on and not take off to cluster 2 sessions?
I would not recommend it. The CDC does have guidelines on how to often to pump and clean and sanitize your pump parts. So you do also want to look at your pump manufacturer and look at their guidelines as far as how deeply you need to clean everything. But um, if you are wearing it in for 2 sessions, for one, you're increasing that body temperature that's more than room temperature. When we talk about leaving it on the counter for like up to 4 hours, that's at room temperature. That's like 72 degrees. Our body temperature is 98. Um,
Yeah.
so we really want to make sure that we're um, switching out that, putting the milk away, using it right away if need be. But we don't want to be like really leaving those pump parts on for long periods of time. And we don't
Yeah.
want to we don't want to avoid cleaning them because although it is rare, there are germs and bacteria that could get into the breast milk. And the more it's exposed and not put in a sealed container, whether it's a bag or a bottle with a lid, then that's more likely to have bacteria growing in it. And refrigeration does help keep it cool, so it reduces that bacteria growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your answer. I do just want to mention, we know it's 4 o'clock, so if you do have something pressing, thank you so much for joining. But we do have some more questions, so if you have some time to hang out with us for a little bit, please feel free to. But I did want to just bring that up. The next question here, in your experience, what are some must-have tools for breastfeeding and or pumping? There are so many, it can be overwhelming. They mention Haka, hospital grade pump, or it doesn't even have to be this complicated.
No, it doesn't. I am the queen of low intervention. I
Yup.
actually am not a big believer in pillows or the wearable pillows because they
Mm,
can like leave the baby too far from the breast. Like so when you have your pillow, it's usually down here when the baby really needs to be up here. Um,
right.
so I encourage holding the baby and leaning back as much as possible. I do encourage like a wrap or a sling so that the baby can be close
Hmm.
to you, and then you can breastfeed as needed if you want to have um your time to like stand up and not have to be on the couch or whatever the case may be. Um, and then a haka isn't a bad thing. It's very low tech if that's something
Yeah.
that you want every once in a while, but it shouldn't be your main. If you do need to pump, it shouldn't be your main pump. And you shouldn't have to feel like you have to use it often. It is something, a haka is like something to catch that extra milk. And that was the other thing with the video. Who saw all that milk like being squirted everywhere and not necessarily in the
Everywhere.
bowl? Oh,
I'm glad I wasn't the only one like cringing. Just why are you
yeah.
wasting so
Right. I'm
much?
like, I know they're doing it because they feel the confident and they're going to make more milk, and we always will make more
Yes.
milk. But I just like, oh, put the milk in the bottle. And that's okay. We do spill milk. It does happen. But
Yes.
so a haka is something that if you feel like you're going to be leaking a lot of milk or have extra milk that you want to save, then that's fine. A hospital grade pump is usually not necessary. A lot of the pumps now, especially the personal pumps, not necessarily the wearables, because like I said, some of the wearables don't have the strength and the suction,
Mm.
are very similar to the hospital grade pumps. So unless there's a specific reason, a lot of the like Medela, Ardo, and I'm not saying one pump or over another, but a lot of the good, reputable pump companies over time, their pumps are going to be just as compatible to a hospital grade pump. I do, there are pumps that I do not care for, and I worry about when people tell me they're using them, but that's a
Mm.
different discussion.
Yeah. Good, good. Someone said, thank you. This was wonderful. Such in-depth, much needed education. Absolutely. I did have a question just from, listening to you and thinking, one of the things we hear a lot in breastfeeding and lactation, we always hear, breast is best. That's just the thing that we love to say and we love to tell people. But that phrase in itself can carry a lot of pressure,
Mhm.
especially for a mom who might be struggling or is not producing as much milk as she anticipated. So how do you kind of help parents define breastfeeding success, or lactation success just on their own terms?
Yeah, and I never use breast is best. I
Mm,
really like to use support is best, education is
nice.
best. And making sure that you know what you're doing. Like again, when I said like, why are you pumping? If you do need to give
Mm,
formula, why are you giving formula? My eldest, like I said, was given formula, and I was feeding him at the breast and giving him a bottle every time. Well, somebody
yeah.
later on is like, well, why are you giving him a bottle? I go, well, because I was told to. But that was when he was not growing well. Now he's growing well and doing well, and now he's
Mm,
overweight. And they're like, well, now you don't need this anymore. Um,
yeah.
and he was formula fed his whole first year of life, but I didn't need, when I was home with him, I was able to breastfeed him without having to use the bottle. I needed the bottle because I wasn't pumping enough.
Right.
And that's a whole nother subject. But I had gotten to a point where I was breastfeeding him. Um, Successfully at home, but not pumping successfully. And that was
Yeah.
fine. That was perfectly reasonable. That was success for us. Um, it may be that your goal is only to breastfeed for 2 weeks, and that works for you, and that's great. Um, and that's okay too. If you're just going to, if you have a goal and you want to do that, then let's help reach your goal. It may not
Right.
be a year or 2 years like the World Health Organization or the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends, and that there are many reasons for that. So,
Yeah.
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 I
Perfect.
see one question that says tips for cracked and sore nipples. Again,
Whew.
those I like,
Mm,
yeah. So Um, cracked and sore nipples, it depends on where they're coming from too. So sometimes I've seen
mm.
moms with cracked and sore nipples from pumping because they're using a pumping setting too high.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes it's because of the baby. So again, if you're dealing with cracked and sore nipples, I want you to be seen by somebody. I don't want you to have to suffer in silence. Um,
Yeah.
the longer you suffer in silence, the longer it is to try and fix the problem. So speak up, ask for somebody, but most often the cracked and sore nipples issue is that latch in position. Maybe they're holding the baby's head, they're holding baby's head up too high, the baby doesn't get to tuck in their chin and move their head up. They're not waiting for
Mm,
that baby's mouth to open. There's a lot of little reasons that those can happen. Um,
yeah.
but if you call and someone it gives you some over the phone tips or you watch a video and they don't work, that means that you need to talk to somebody, whether it's your WIC peer counselor, your lactation consultant at the hospital, a home visiting program. That means somebody else needs to go and kind of look and see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I highly recommend, especially if you give birth in a hospital, please talk to the lactation consultant. Every hospital should have one. Emphasis on should.
Should.
And these are things that you've already paid for these services. So you might as well speak to someone who can kind of give you a jump start on what you need to know. I have a friend of mine who recently gave birth to twins. They are NICU babies, but her lactation consultant was excellent, teaching her a lot more of what she'll need to prepare for, especially with them being in NICU. So please take advantage. If you happen to be pregnant and you're on this call, please take advantage of speaking to an LC. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I'm gonna kind of preface it because I've been a hospital lactation consultant and a community lactation consultant. What they
Hmm.
tell you in the first few days of your baby being born changes. And it's okay to ask them to re-explain or change it because your baby in the first 3 days is very sleepy or very hungry or doing all kinds of weird, like learning how to work in the world. And by the time they're 1 week old and they're home in the hospital, things are different. So even if it
Yeah,
was great at the hospital and they told you, oh, everything's perfect, when you get home, things
it's
change.
different.
It's okay to
Absolutely.
ask for things
Yeah.
for help on the new situation.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to feel like you're taking it all on your own. Absolutely. Well, I think that was our last question. This was an amazing talk. Thank you guys for sharing your